All right, what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to another episode of the Just Ballin' podcast. ESPN dropped their NBA power rankings ahead of the All-Star break. You guys may see this on possibly Tuesday or Thursday of this week. So maybe they've already played another game or two, so the records could be out of date. But I wanted to react to this because we'll see where ESPN has some of these teams after the trade deadline. Kind of want to see where I had these teams at the deadline and compare them to the ESPN ranking. And yeah, I think it's always fun to look back on this and see what has worked over time, what has maybe changed from the deadline. And I think it will be interesting to see if they were correct about some of these at the end of the year. Because I always like to look back and see what people's predictions were mid-season and the beginning of the year. Because I think people forget that, like, I don't know. I think it's like good content as well. Like for me, I love reacting to my old content to see how well it's aged, if it's for the good or for the bad. I think you guys enjoy that, and I enjoy it as well. And I think also it just holds people a little bit accountable because you could just make like a terrible take, and that's fine. Like nobody's perfect in these, but I think it's good to go back and see where your head's at and see how well some of this stuff is aged. So I want to go 30-1. So I'm going to go to the bottom of this article, and they have the Washington Wizards. I mean, to no surprise, they are 9-44. They maybe actually got better at the deadline. I mean, they traded away Kyle Kuzma, who hasn't been objectively good this year, but at least he's been available. They do add Marcus Smart, Chris Middleton, and AJ Johnson at this deadline, and they got some draft capital for doing so. I mean, Smart and Middleton should help them if they are healthy, but the thing is, like, how available are they going to be for the 9-44 Wizards, right? Like, maybe Marcus Smart wants to show that he could still be another player in this league that can get another contract, and he could still be a good defender, and he could be a good leader in the locker room, and I think Marcus Smart will be that guy. But how is Chris Middleton going to go from Milwaukee, where he was trying to compete for championships for the last like 5+ years of his career, to going to the worst team in the league? He is under contract throughout this year and next year, but he's getting older. He's got a couple more injuries. I just don't know. Like maybe they're going to get better, but it's just, are we going to see Smart and Middleton? But I think all eyes are just on their young guys, how they are going to develop after the deadline. At number 29, we have the Pelicans. I think I had the Jazz behind the Pelicans, but maybe now I disagree with that because they've had another injury. Herb Jones is out for the year. DeJounte Murray's already out for the year. Zion, when he plays, is like still a top 25 guy in the league, but it's just like, are we ever going to see him play back-to-backs? Are we ever going to see him play 5 games in a row? I think those are all questions that I think people have the right idea to bring up still, and they've just had so many injuries this year, and this team is so banged up. And are we going to see Misi play consistent time? I guess adding Olynyk and Bruce Brown will make them better, and that's why I think I had them ahead of Utah, because Brandon Ingram wasn't playing for this team. So they're 12-41. They dropped the spot from their previous ranking at 28. And I do want, like, this team, they win the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. Hey, even if they get Dylan Harper, they're going to be in a good position for the 2026 season to be a playoff team, depending on where some of these Western Conference teams go around them in the offseason. You have the Utah Jazz at 28, so one spot ahead of the Pelicans. I think, like, I was shocked that Collins didn't get moved, Sexton didn't get moved, and Clarkson. Maybe all 3 of those guys. Like, the fact that all 3 are on their team, I think, is shocking. I thought at least one of them was going to get traded, and I think it would have been okay. I like to open up more minutes for Bryce Sensabaugh. I know we're getting Collier minutes, but I want to keep seeing Collier be this good playmaking point guard we've seen all year. Will Markkanen be healthy for the second half? We'll see. And I think eyes are going to be on John Collins, who could become an unrestricted free agent in the offseason. And I wonder if a team like Detroit would be interested in signing him, or a team in a sign and trade, because not a lot of teams have cap space. Either way, they're coming in as one of the worst teams in the league still. We have the Charlotte Hornets at 27. They maybe could have gone worse at the deadline. I mean, they did trade away Cody Martin and Vasa Micic for Nurkic, which I don't really think is going to affect their win total too much off that deal. I don't even know if it's going to change much, but they've had a lot of injuries. Brandon Miller's out for the year. Nick Smith Jr. had a weird ejection the other night when I was watching the game, because he like tossed the ball. I think it was it Goga? Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird ejection, but this team, it's going to be bad. We'll see if LaMelo is going to be healthy at any time throughout the second half of the year. But he had another ankle soreness injury, which sucks because it's always been a thing with LaMelo for most of his career. And this team also, I mean, like, does Mark Williams, the connector probably makes them worse, even though I like Musa Diabate a lot. But I think Mark Williams, if he could stay healthy, is a good player. They're probably going to still end up with the second worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they are 13-38. We have the Raptors at 26. Okay, maybe a little low. Like, Brooklyn's ahead of Toronto. Toronto at 26. They did extend Brandon Ingram after trading for him. Now, it does make sense that if like Ingram, who I don't even think has a timetable to return. Like, they're going to get worse because you trade away Bruce Brown and Olynyk, like solid rotational guys in that deal. And I know like quickly he's becoming a little bit more healthier, hopefully in the second half. And like, I think they just want to see as much Scotty quickly and Barrett, maybe even before Ingram comes back. So we'll see. But yeah, they did lose 2 rotational guys in that Ingram trade for a player that's not even available for them right now. So I guess I see the reasoning at 26, but they play better than the 26th ranked team. They've just had so many injuries. Like the Nets at 25, I guess the Nets didn't trade away like Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, Cam Thomas, Daron Sharp. I know some of those guys are hurt, but either way, they didn't really get worse at the deadline. They traded away Finney Smith and Shooter a while back, and I don't think like going from Shooter to D'Lo really changes too much for them. But yeah, they traded, or no, well, yeah, and those were 2 separate deals, but going from like Maxwell Lewis and D'Anthony Melton, who are both out for the year, for Dorian Finney-Smith, yeah, that's going to hurt them a little bit. But I think this team wants to end up with one of the worst records in the league, but Jordy Fernandez, man, he's getting good play out of this team. They're competitive in a lot of games. They beat Philadelphia the other night, where that was like the Paul George stinker. But I don't know if I think Nets fans wish they were maybe swapped with like Washington here, honestly. So speaking, or no, we have Chicago at 24, who I guess got worse at the deadline, right? You trade away Zach LaVine, you get back Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, and Zach Collins. Oh my God, man, like Huerter and Zach Collins, there's no excitement to what they are going to be, at least probably throughout the rest of these current contracts. I mean, Trey Jones could have some excitement, but this team has so many guards. I'm fine with them extending Lonzo, but you could have got a first rounder for him, and I just feel like Lonzo could have helped out a playoff team so much, but maybe they didn't want to move him. Patrick Williams has been so disappointing off that $90 million extension, and they didn't move Vucevic. Yeah, Bulls are at 24. Maybe the lottery gods will be on their side because Cooper Flag in one of the biggest markets, maybe what the NBA wants to rig in the May lottery. So Philadelphia comes in at 23. I mean, yeah, you talk about Phoenix, you talk about Philadelphia, some of the more disappointing teams in the NBA this season. I don't know, because at least like Phoenix has Devin Booker, but Philly does have more draft capital than Phoenix, and they do have McCain and Maxey, and I know Paul George could easily turn into the worst contract in the league, and it might, like, if this is the version of Paul George we're getting, it's worse than Bradley Beal's contract. Is it though? But because of the no trade clause. Either way, Philly being at 23 is super disappointing. I do like the addition of Quentin Grimes. He had a really good game the other night with all those injuries, but yeah, Embiid acknowledged he might need another surgery on his left knee, and it's just been the same old story all year long. I mean, if he needs another surgery, then whatever I'm going to say, it doesn't make any sense, but I mean, this team's goal was always just to be healthy in the playoffs, and I think you'd rather them be the 8th or 7th seed and healthy than the 5 seed and Embiid is playing hurt. But hey, if Embiid needs another surgery, I don't think there's a possibility where he is healthy in the playoffs. So, I mean, this team lost McCain for the year. They kept Gershon at the deadline, and I think they're going to be under the tax, like they're going to be able to get the non-taxpayer mid-level exception to bring him back in the offseason, which is big. And maybe this team's eyes are going to be on 2026, but Paul George is not going to be better next year than he is this year. I don't know. Paul George has had his injuries, but we're not getting Pacers Paul George. We're not getting Thunder Paul George. We're not getting even early Clippers Paul George anymore, just at his age. 22 Portland. Hey, shout out to Portland, man. They deserve the respect. They have been one of the better teams as of late in like these tier of teams, and Scoot's been better. Tamani Kamara is so much fun to watch. I think Donovan Clingan needs more playing time in the second half of the year, but there's some talent, and I said in the beginning of the year when I predicted them to be the 15th seed in the West, this is going to be the most talented 15th seed of all time, and they didn't end up as the 15th seed. They may end up as the 13th seed. You can honestly make an argument it's the most talented 13th seed of all time. Number 21, we have the San Antonio Spurs, who they're weird. Like the Spurs have the talent, I think, right now to make a playoff push, but I don't know if they want to. Like, we're seeing more Chris Paul than Stephon Castle, which I don't really get. I don't know who that helps. Maybe it's helping Wemby's development indirectly, but I just think like we got to see as many minutes out there with Castle, Fox, and Wemby, and we didn't really see that after the Fox trade. So I'm going to keep an eye on this team because I think they're a sneaky, like, we want to lose games team, and they're fine now making the playing tournament. Number 20, we have the Atlanta Hawks, who actually go up a spot from their previous ranking. I mean, they get worse at the deadline. You do get a little bit more depth, and the Hawks have had their fair share of injuries this year. You go from DeAndre Hunter to George Niang and Karis LeVert. You go from Bogdan Bogdanovic to Terrence Mann. Could be an upgrade, could not, we'll see. But yeah, I think all eyes are going to be on Trae Young throughout the rest of the year. And if he's going to be happy on this team, I mean, they're 26-28. They could still be a playoff team. It sucks that Jalen Johnson is out for the year, but they've been getting good play out of Reece Shea recently. They've been getting good play out of Onyeka Okongwu. Clint Capella's still on this team. Larry Nance has had his injuries this year. I mean, shout out Keaton Wallace, like what he's done. David Roddy's had a flash or two for this team. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Hawks are just in a bad spot. I think they should try to make the playoffs so they don't have to give their pick to San Antonio. Well, they're giving their pick to San Antonio, but they don't give a good pick to San Antonio. But why do the players care? I mean, these players should be playing hard because some of these guys aren't under guaranteed contracts going forward. So, I don't know. The Hawks, I started becoming low on them, and maybe I'm becoming too low on them. Next up at 19, the Orlando Magic. Kind of disappointing after the start of the year. Everyone's like, this is, like, going into the year, everybody had the Cavs, Pacers, and Magic in, like, the tier 2 or tier 3 teams in the East, which, if you're saying no, yes, that is what everybody pretty much, like, those were the tiers going into the year. You just kind of had to predict what team was going to be the best. And if you picked the Cavs, you were right. But start of the year, everyone was very high on the Orlando Magic, and this is the worst shooting team in the NBA statistically. Paolo does not look 100%. Paolo and Franz have had more bad games, like when they've both been out there, than good. They did have a good game against Atlanta, as they know here, which they did, and I just hope Paolo is at 100%. It doesn't look like he is because of the abdominal injury, and they've had their injuries, like Mo Wagner being out for the year sucks. They haven't really seen the best development out of some of their young guys. I'm surprised they didn't just add any type of shooting at the deadline. If it was like Eric Gordon, right? Like just anything, any type of shooting. 18, we have the Miami Heat. They are 25-26, back-to-back Florida teams. They do drop 3 spots post Jimmy Butler trade. And I don't know, Wiggins has looked weird so far in the Heat rotation, but I think he's going to be fine developing like under Spo and figuring out this connecting piece that he's going to be for Miami. But I think, I know your pick is lottery protected. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you give OKC the 15th pick. I think you just want to see Bam become a little bit better offensively in the second half of the year so then he can look good for next year. All eyes are on Khalil Ware because he's been very fun to watch. I think you want to see Jovic develop. Can Jaime Jaquez show any improvement in year number 2? And then, yeah, just Tyler Hero was an all-star. He may be playing for an all-NBA team. And I think you're fine. Like, I mean, this year, I'd rather be the 8th seed just because the Celtics have done it. I think if there was a probability that like Miami, I don't know, they always play good against Boston, right? But I think there's a better probability Miami could upset the Cavs than like the Celtics. Like it might be 5% to 3%, right? That there could be an upset, but I do think it would be better. I don't know, like Miami, Cleveland in a 7-game series. I'd like to see what Spo can do if everybody can stay healthy on their team. Number 17, we have the Suns, which might be a little high. I don't know. I might make an argument that Miami's better than Phoenix right now. Orlando, yeah, maybe not, but I think Miami could have a case for being better than Phoenix. Phoenix, I mean, they go from Nurkic to Cody Martin and Vasa Micic at the deadline. They added Nick Richards a few weeks ago. They're a fine team. Like, objectively, they're fine. They're a bad defensive team, but being fine in the Western Conference isn't going to cut it. They've dropped 3 spots, and like I talked about all eyes being on Trae Young, all eyes are on Kevin Durant. If this is going to be the final final year in Phoenix, as they, most expensive payroll in NBA history to be under 500 at this point kind of stinks for them. At number 16, we have the Sacramento Kings, who are 27-26. They, I'm sure, would like to make the playoffs. Their pick is top 12 protected. Then it goes, I believe, to top 10. And then it would turn into seconds. This team did go from Fox to Levine at the deadline. Got a little bit of draft capital in that deal. I do like them taking a flyer on Jake LaRavia. They get Valanciunas. I mean, they have the Lithuanian connection with him and Sabonis, which is fun. I'm excited to see Malik Monk become more of a point guard for this team, as we saw a little bit after the deal, and we'll see throughout the second half of the year. I think this team is just going to be a very competitive, like 43-39 team when it's all said and done. It's just, where is that going to be in the Western Conference seeding? Is that going to be the 11th seed? Is that going to be the 9th seed? Could that somehow be the 6th seed? Probably not, but either way, I do think Sacramento, they're going to be trying hard throughout the rest of the year, and I would say that they're better than Phoenix right now. So I agree. Golden State at 15, I think Golden State and Sacramento are very close. Jimmy has looked good so far in a Golden State Warriors uniform. And yeah, I think they're going to have some tough games out of the break. They got Dallas. Actually, Dallas really isn't that tough because of all the injuries, but you got Houston, Sacramento. So some easy games, some hard games because you got Charlotte, and if it's a depleted Dallas team. I've enjoyed watching Jimmy Butler in Golden State. I've enjoyed watching Steph. I think maybe be a little bit happier that he has a co-star now. I need Draymond to maybe stop talking about some other teams. And obviously, he was very vocal at the deadline, but I needed him to lock in defensively. I like what Quinn Post has shown them as like a floor spacing 5 for a second rounder. Why not? And then you got Moses Moody being good. So I don't know. I hope this team is healthy. I hope Pods plays better in the second half. And I would like to see this team in a playoff series. I mean, who knows? Like, them versus OKC, I think OKC would win, and that's no shocker, but I do think Golden State could make it competitive. We have Detroit at 14. Shout out to them, man. Shout out to them. I think I had them like 26th in my preseason rankings, and they're up to 14 here for ESPN. They're up 2 spots. They did add Dennis Schroeder throughout the deadline. Fine by me. Helps out Cade a little bit. I would have liked if they added another offensive weapon. Maybe they think they will get Jaden Ivey back in like end of March, early April. We'll see how he looks. But yeah, this team could end up not making the playoffs if they're in the play-in tournament and Atlanta beats them or upsets them, or Miami or Orlando. All possibilities, but I'm just glad that they're here. Cade's had one of the more exciting Pistons seasons in a while. More exciting, I think, than 2019 Blake, just because of their differences in age. Dallas at 13. I mean, this team, oh my God, man. I mean, you take the biggest risk ever trading away Luka Doncic. You're taking the biggest PR hit ever as well. And Anthony Davis gets hurt immediately in his first game with an abdominal injury. He's going to be out like for the next 4+ weeks, which sucks. Like, it's a tough Western Conference. Like, shout out to what Kyrie and Max Christie have done. But yeah, half the team was in street clothes the other night, where you had Gafford hurt, Lively hurt, PJ hurt, AD's hurt. Everybody's kind of hurt on this team. I think Jaden Hardy might have been hurt in that game. Either way, like, this team is depleted right now. We'll see how far like Max Christie, OMP, and Kyrie Irving can take this team, and Klay Thompson. I hope it is a playoff team. I hope they're a 6 seed. I mean, I think like my prediction at the end of the year, Denver gets the 2 seed. So who knows? But I think if you could somehow get the 6 seed and you get Houston or Memphis in round 1, that could be a favorable matchup for Dallas. Even if they get the Lakers in round 1, if the Mavericks are fully healthy, I would probably take them against the Lakers. Since the Lakers weren't able to add Mark Williams, I don't think he's that much of a difference maker, but the Lakers do have their holes on their roster, especially if like we don't know about Luka's health too. Milwaukee at 12. This team ended up going from Middleton and AJ Johnson to Kyle Kuzma. They also basically turned DeLon Wright into Jericho Sims. I'm glad I hope they're trying to go a little bit more into the Andre Jackson route. Like, AJ Green's been a great shooter for them. Gary Trent Jr. has been better over the second half of the first half. And you have Giannis. You do. Now Giannis is dealing with injuries. Dame is dealing with injuries. We'll see how healthy this team is. They're lucky. The Eastern Conference is horrible this year. So I think they could sleepwalk their way to the 6th seed. And maybe that's fine. Maybe they think they could beat the Knicks in a 7-game series. I'm hoping that we get them Indiana 4 versus 5, because that would be a lot of fun, a rematch from last year. And hopefully Giannis and Dame are healthy this time. We got the Clippers at 11. I don't know. Are the Clippers better than Milwaukee? I think that could be up for debate. LA, hopefully like Kawhi's fully healthy. I know LeBron didn't play in the All-Star game. Same with Ant. So it would have been cool if Norman Powell made it, because he was putting up All-Star numbers this year. For sure, they get Ben Simmons in the buyout market. He had a nice, impactful game in his debut for the Clippers. It's a good defensive team. It's just how healthy are they going to be? How's their offense going to look in the second half? And they're going to try to stay as that 6th seed. And they did add Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills. At number 10, we have the Indiana Pacers, so they kick off the top 10. They've been playing better as of late. They got off to a kind of a rough start. Matherin's look good. I mean, Halliburton and Miles Turner, I feel like have had their inconsistencies this year. Maybe Halliburton more than Turner. Siakam's been the definition of consistent for this team. Not really see the Walker breakout. I know that you wanted to move Obi Toppin. You added, I think, Biyombo in the buyout market, or I might be getting my teams wrong there. But either way, I think this team is, I don't know. I struggle to see this team winning a playoff series this year, but I said that last year and they won 2. So I don't want to count out the Pacers because they play hard, and hey, you get them in a 7-game series, maybe they're going to make the adjustments and match up well against you. Like I said, I want to see them versus Milwaukee in round 1. At number 9, we got Minnesota, who didn't make any moves at the deadline. They really couldn't because they were a second apron team. They've had a lot of injuries right now with Gobert, DiVincenzo, Conley, Randall, all being banged up. And we got to see them beat the Thunder. Great win, I'll say that. And we got to see a lot of Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr., Jalen Clark get minutes for this team, which honestly excites me a ton for how they can look going forward, because I think Clark can play some good defense. Rob's got one of the best jumpers in the league already, and Terrence Shannon Jr. plays with a lot of energy and physicality, and I think that's what Minnesota needs. So maybe all these veteran injuries are a blessing in disguise to allow the youngins to get some confidence, and they might be much needed come playoff time. Houston at 8, they are falling, and yeah, they played really poor leading up to the All-Star break, so maybe they needed it. They didn't make a move at the deadline outside of getting Jaden Springer just to waive him. They didn't add any shooting. They are one of the worst shooting teams in the league as well. I mean, I love watching Amen Thompson play and Şengün, and I mean, Jalen Green can have his moments, and Tariq Eason, who's been dealing with some injuries, though. I don't think this, I don't know. If I had to make a bold take right now, I don't think Houston wins a playoff series. Unless they get like the Clippers in round one, maybe I would take the Rockets. But if they, I mean, and that's going to be like a tough pick. But I think if they play any other team that's like healthy, that doesn't have any major injuries, I don't think I'm taking Houston. I think this is a good season, though. Good for the young core's confidence. But I feel like, especially if they are a first round exit, ownership, like Fertitta, whoever the owner is, I always forget his name. Tillman Fertitta, is that right? I think they're going to be making some type of major splash in the offseason. Number 7, we have the Lakers. Obviously, they had Luka Doncic. They had Alex Len. And Lakers fans are like, oh my God, like, we got Alex Len. And then they watch him play, and they're like, why is he on our team? He didn't have a great debut game against the Jazz. Yeah, this center depth is rough. They're relying a ton on Jackson Hayes. Luka's not at full strength yet. LeBron's 40. I don't know, though. Like, if they had Mark Williams, I would have a little bit of different thoughts about this team. I don't think, like, I think if the Lakers played the Rockets, I would take the Lakers. Like, I would maybe like LA against, like, the Clippers or the Rockets, or if they somehow got the Warriors or the Kings in round one. I do think Memphis would match up well against them. OKC, Denver, I think would beat LA. Like, I'm going back and forth. It really depends on how they look out after the deadline. I was looking at this Dallas game they play on the 25th, but that's hosting Dallas. So you get, well, AD's not playing, but I don't know off the top of my head when Luka goes back to Dallas, but that's going to be an interesting one. Lakers at 7, though. Like, I would take them over Houston in a playoff series. I don't know, though. Minnesota might match up well against the Lakers because you throw, like, McDaniels, Naw, and these good perimeter defenders at LeBron and Luka, and then, like, is Jackson Hayes guarding Rudy Gobert and, like, Nas? I don't know. I think it's going to be kind of tough. That's an interesting playoff series. I didn't really mention Minnesota and playoff series teams, but yeah, like, I would take Minnesota over LA, the Clippers, and Houston. We have the Knicks at number 6, the third best team in the Eastern Conference. They pretty much stayed the same. They turned Jericho Sims into DeLon Wright at the deadline, but their big trade deadline acquisition is going to be getting Mitchell Robinson back healthy. They got blown out by Boston, which was embarrassing. Boston missed some guys. I think Drew didn't play. I forgot who else didn't play. The Knicks didn't have OG, but oh my God. I mean, like, they cut it close in the third quarter. It was like a 5-point game, and then Boston went on a run, but you're home for that game, and that's a team you may play in round number 2 if you're the 2 seed or 3 seed and they're the 2 seed. I don't know. Like, a lot of my friends ask me, like, you think the Knicks can go all the way this year? It's tough. I think there is a scenario the Knicks can beat Cleveland in a playoff series, 100%. Do I think they could beat Boston? It's tough to really have confidence because Boston's the reigning champions. They're going to have the best player in this series in Jason Tatum. Like, if the Knicks play the Cavs, like, it's close, Brunson and Mitchell, right? And I do think, like, if the Knicks operate, like, if they're healthy, Mitch and Cat can go up there against Mobley and Allen. Now, defensively, Mitch and Cat are not what Mitch and Hartenstein were 2 years ago against Cleveland, but I do think they can match up well against them. But Boston, I don't think they can. I don't know. I don't think they can get past Boston in round number 2 right now. And a lot relies on their 5. Yeah, you got McBride and Mitchell Robinson coming off the bench, but they've both been banged up this year. And OG, man, he gets hurt every year. So, like, if anybody's hurt or not playing 100%, it's tough. So you need the perfect world where this team is healthy, and they're playing 40-plus minutes a night. So I don't know if they're going to be healthy come playoff time. I do think they could beat Milwaukee, Indiana, Detroit, any team. I think, like I said, they could beat Cleveland if everything is healthy for them. But even Boston, like, healthy versus healthy, that's tough to say. Memphis at 5, which I kind of disagree. Why do you have Memphis ahead of New York? I mean, they do have a better record, but New York just blew them out. The Knicks have their best game of the year against Memphis, in a game which Ja and Triple J both played in. And Ja has, I don't know, kind of struggled this year at times. I mean, Triple J was a very deserving all-star. Their rookie class has been great. And I know, like, Gigi's been hurt and Vince has been hurt, and they've had a lot of injuries yet again for this team. I just don't think I would take them above the Knicks right now. Especially because they played so recently and the Knicks blew them out of the building. It wasn't even close. So I don't know. I think I disagree with that. But could be biased. Denver at number 4, another team the Knicks have beaten a lot, but Denver has been one of the best teams in the NBA as of late. They have the best player in the NBA, Nikola Jokic, who could end up winning MVP yet again this year. And I think, I don't know. I think this team is like, it's hitting its stride at the right time. We'll see if they're peaking too early, but I would say, like, on paper, they're the second best team in the West. If I'm taking any team to beat OKC, it is Denver, just because I'm trusting so much in what Jamal Murray has looked like as of late. Christian Brown has been fantastic. You get Porter Jr. and Gordon in their complementary roles, and you add in Russ, like, as just an energy guy. Peyton Watson can play some defense, and if he could be healthy, I like this Denver team to possibly win it all again for the first time since 2023. Boston at 3. I mean, I think Boston is better than Cleveland, but if you're going off record this year, sure. Like, what's fun in that? We could just list out the standings. I do think Boston would beat Cleveland in a playoff series. I know I've been kind of dunking on Cleveland, and I'm going to give them their flowers in a little bit. But yeah, Boston at 3 seems a little bit too low. Yeah, you could talk yourself into like the Horford and Drew Holiday regression and Holiday's down shooting and KP's injury concerns and Jaylen Brown's dipping in efficiency or dip in his efficiency. Yeah, I think those are all viable concerns. And it looks like they don't have like that foot on the gas pedal they had last year. Like they've struggled to go on like winning streaks at times this year, but I still think that they are the second best team in the NBA. Cleveland at number 2. I mean, I think we're on a collision course to get Cleveland and Boston in the conference finals, which would be a very fun series because I love what Cleveland did at the deadline, going from Niang and LeVert to Hunter, and maybe like it isn't the biggest marginal like win upgrade, but you add in Hunter's contract. I like that because LeVert's a free agent at the end of the year. I would have liked if they added a backup center, like God forbid there's a Mobley or Allen, like minor injury. I want a little bit more insurance than Tristan Thompson as my backup 5. So, I mean, in hindsight, maybe they end up with like a Yves Missi instead of a Jalen Tyson on the draft night. But either way, I mean, like, I don't even know why I'm talking about that for the Cavs this year. Their purpose is to win a title. They're 43-10, and they truly have a 5 that I think can win it all with Garland, the way he's playing this year and his efficiency. Mitchell, maybe his numbers don't look like Donovan Mitchell's of the past, but he's allowing Mobley to break out, Garland to kind of bounce back, and like Allen is still one of the better centers in the Eastern Conference. And then to no surprise, OKC at number 1, they're 43-9. Chet's now getting back into the swing of things. They've had kind of a lot of injuries, especially to the big men this year, but Hardenstein has been home run signing for them. Caruso, Wallace, Dort, J-Dub, like they have so many good defenders on their team. They're one of the best defensive teams of the 21st century, and I do think they are the team to beat right now. So that is going to wrap out ESPN's power rankings. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything they said, with anything I said. Let me know down below in the comments, and if you guys are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, really appreciate a rating and review over there as well, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.